Hello again, Jason here. I've been creating first-person dungeon crawler games for 3 years now. I've released 3 and my 4th is in progress. Each one takes 6 to 9 months to build working full-time. They would take about 4 times as long if I were working part-time, so about 2 to 3 years each. When I first started this channel, I showed the beginnings of my first dungeon crawler, Into the Inferno, starting to take shape. But it released after the Google algorithm glitch deleted my YouTube channel. I have another video about that if you're curious, I'll link it below. So, I never had a good chance to show the results. Well, the story had a few interesting turns to it since releasing thanks to a long history of updates. So first I'm going to tell you a bit about the game. It is a first-person, party-based dungeon crawler with turn-based combat, also known as a gritter and a blobber. It's created in a retro 1990s style, and my biggest inspirations were the Wizardry series of games, the Bard's Tale series of games, and the Might and Magic series. Specifically, Bard's Tale 1, Might and Magic 2, and Wizardry 5. The game is built in Unity, and the version I was using was 2022.3. I didn't build it from scratch. Instead, I used a store asset called Ariadne as a starting point. That asset is for grid-based games and has a movement controller, map editor, and some various other things that enable you to start a project. On top of that asset, I wrote the combat system, gameplay, characters, and inventory systems from scratch. It had a basic inventory system, but I didn't keep it. I did keep the event system it came with, and added a bunch more types of events and expanded a lot of the existing ones. I also kept the mini-map system and expanded it a lot, later expanding it into a full-screen map system. If you look back earlier in my channel's videos, you'll see some of the first steps in actually building these systems. This was the first game I had that participated in a Steam Next Fest. It entered the festival with very few wish lists, gained way fewer than most participants, but it still came out way ahead of where it had started. When I launched the game, it had 286 wish lists. In today's Steam, that's almost like launching with 0 wish lists. When the game first launched, it was only in English and Spanish. I added additional translations later through patches. The initial sales were not very high. I did have some initial enthusiastic reactions from people who are very excited when any new dungeon crawler releases. I also got a little bit of video coverage from some smaller YouTubers, but the game was not beautiful when it launched. And to be honest, the art direction held me back. The art was a mix of almost Minecraft-y blocks combined with some mid-poly art, and a bunch of stock assets that didn't necessarily match each other. The user interface was almost entirely plain text without much ornamentation. There were some nice looking buttons, but it definitely looked like a 1980s text-based game. Now, many modern dungeon crawlers lean more heavily into either retro pixel art or anime art. My lack of art direction, combined with monster art that was from a commercial art pack rather than custom work created for the game, I'm sure was a factor. This technically wasn't my first game, because I had launched Beast Dungeon before this, but it was the first game that I ever started working on. The initial performance actually was better than most first-time game launches, and I think that had a lot to do with how enthusiastic players are of this genre. After the game launched, I kept working on improving it and started work on a sequel. Many of the improvements that I made for the sequel ended up being backported into the game, and I eventually merged the 2 code bases. I actually have a video talking about how I managed multiple games in the same code base, and I'll link that in the description too. Over time, I improved the user interface and made it fancier and easier to use, added character portraits, balanced the combat better, added some more utility spells, more items and quests, and just continued to enhance the game. I also added more language translations, and each additional language added a few more sales. But what I didn't expect was when I added Japanese, just through Google Translate, just a terrible machine translation. People were so enthusiastic about it that my sales in Japan pushed the game over the 10 review threshold, and it started to get more organic traffic on Steam. I've still made updates to the game this year, and I also put it on sale every time there's a seasonal Steam sale, and I get a little bit of a sales bump from that. So all of that combined together results in today's grand total. I'm certain it will continue selling a bit here and there, and it's actually on sale right now in the Steam Spring Sale. Link for that also in the description. I'm very glad that I was able to connect with the Japanese player base. They've been very helpful and supportive, and to help me improve the game through their feedback. So you see this large number of updates, It's definitely true that you can give a game new life through updating it. Existing players are happy about getting new things, and the game becomes more attractive to new players. Now, do I think you can turn a failed game into a successful game just through updates? Not at this scale, no. But you could very easily double or triple your sales through dedicated support and improvements. Of all the games I have released so far, this game has actually been the second best selling, only surpassed by Navigating the Labyrinth. The game that came after this, Crossing the Sands, had a stronger launch, but hasn't sold as well long term. I'm sure I'll do a video on that at some point, so subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching.